What's up, y'all? This is Nick with From the Ground Up DIY, and today I'm going to be starting a new project, and I'm going to be building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV. Last year, me and my girlfriend bought this 70-inch TV around the holiday season, and I had it stored away in the shed all this time, but now that the year is starting to wind down, it's finally time to go ahead and get the cabinet built for the TV. To start things off, me and my dad took the TV out the box and laid it on a sheet of 1/8 inch plywood. I use a marker to trace the shape of the TV, and I'll be using this sheet of plywood as a template to determine the dimensions for the cabinet, and I also made sure to measure out the mounting holes on the TV as well so that I can transfer those measurements to the template later. I used my track saw to cut the template out, and while I was shopping on Amazon, I saw these huge googly eyes, and I couldn't resist of having some fun with the template. With the template cut out, it was time to assemble the TV lift, and the TV lift I'm using is a Touchstone SRV Pro TV lift, and assembling the lift was pretty straightforward, and I'll be making a video later showing the whole process of putting the lift together. Now that the TV lift is assembled, I was able to draw the mounting holes on the TV template and drill them out so that I can attach the mounting hardware with some nuts and bolts. After that, I was able to hang the template on the TV lift, and once I got it centered, I was finally able to test the lift to make sure that it worked properly. While testing the lift, my buddy Kylie pulled up on me, and she decided to give the template a name, so when you hear me talking about Bob, you'll know who I'm referring to. In the next video, Bob will be helping me to determine the dimensions for the cabinet so I can start breaking down my plywood and assembling the cabinet, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? This is part 2 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and today we're going to be cutting and assembling the plywood for the cabinet. To start off, I use my square to draw a straight line near the edge of the plywood so that I can start with a clean and straight edge. I use my track saw to cut the straight edge, and then I proceeded cutting all 4 sheets of plywood to size to get the 5 panels I needed for the cabinet. Now that all the panels are cut out, I'll be using my pocket hole jig to assemble the cabinet. I drilled pocket holes into a scrap piece first to make sure my stop collar was at the right depth, and then I went ahead and drilled pocket holes into the sides of the back panel. In order to keep the side panel straight, I use a combination of these corner clamps and bar clamps, and once my side panels were square, I was able to screw in some pocket hole screws to secure them in place. The bottom panel of this cabinet will be secured to all 4 sides, so I made sure to drill pocket holes on each side of the panel, and then I repeated the same process to get the bottom panel secured. After getting most of the cabinet assembled, I was able to install the TV lift inside the cabinet, and I will be making a separate video showing how to install the lift inside the cabinet properly. With the lift in, me and my dad was able to attach the 70-inch TV to test it out, and the lift did a great job of lifting the TV, and I was glad that the TV fitted well inside the cabinet. In honor of Halloween, I carved a pumpkin to match my new Wolverine flame resistant shirt, and this shirt is part of their fall collection, which you can check out on their website, and I have the link in my bio. And I also got a chance to hang out with Mr. Skeleton after a long day of work. We was able to catch up with drinks and cigars, and it was a great way to finish the day. But in the next video, I'll be adding the front panel to the cabinet, and I'll be preparing the cabinet to paint, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, many blessings, and happy Halloween. What's up, y'all? This is part 3 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and in the last video I was able to get the cabinet assembled, but I didn't get a chance to show you guys how I installed the TV lift in the cabinet, so I'll be doing so now. Once I got the lift centered in the cabinet, I was able to sit Bob on the lift to see if the TV was going to fit in the cabinet, but as you can see, Bob is sitting higher than the cabinet, and this is because the panel brackets are set too high on the mounting plate. After doing some measuring, I used some painter's tape to mark how far the panel brackets need to come down, and then I was able to remove the mounting plate from the lift. I used a wrench to remove the nuts and bolts that were holding the panel brackets in place, and once I got them removed, I slid the panel brackets down to the right position and got the brackets and mounting plate reattached to the lift. As you can see, Bob is sitting lower than the top of the cabinet this time around, and this means that the 70-inch TV will fit inside. The back of the TV lift has some small screws covering the mounting holes, so after I removed these, I was able to use the provided screws and spacers to secure the column and base of the lift. I decided to place the control box near the top of the cabinet for easy access, so once I drilled a hole for the power supply cord to go through, I used double-sided tape and a small screw to attach the box. I gave the lift a quick test run to make sure everything was hooked up properly, and then I let Bob have a quick joyride before attaching the actual TV. I grabbed my dad to help me set the TV, and the 70-inch TV sat well inside the cabinet, and the lift had no problems with lifting the TV up and down. Thank you guys for watching this video. In the next video, I'll be attaching the front panel to the cabinet so I can go ahead and sand and apply primer, so stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? This is part 4 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and today we're going to be getting the front panel of the cabinet attached and prepping the cabinet to paint. I started off by placing the front panel in the cabinet to make sure that it was going to fit, but as you can see, the edge of the panel is sticking out slightly, and this means the bottom panel is a little too wide. After measuring the excess, I used my track saw to cut the edge down slightly, and of course I forgot to put the dust bag on the track saw, so after I got some fresh air, I used my Japanese pull saw to cut the rest of the edge off, and then I used my sander to smooth the edge out. When I placed the front panel this time around, the edge was slightly inward, but after adjusting, the panel was flush with the sides. Now that the panel fits, I use my pocket hole jig to drill a few pocket holes, and before attaching, I make sure to remove the mounting plate on the TV lift so that it doesn't get damaged. I used my scrap clamp and corner clamps to hold the panel in place while I drove in some pocket hole screws, and once the panel was attached to the sides, me and my dad flipped the cabinet over to attach the panel to the bottom. After that, I used some 120 grit sandpaper to sand the whole cabinet, and then I used some Bondo wood filler to fill in the seams between the plywood and any blemishes that I saw. Now that all the sanding is finished, my dad gave me some oil wheels to put on the bottom of the cabinet so that it would be easier to move around, and once we got the cabinet cabinet outside, I was able to stir up some primer and apply the first coat with a roller. In the next video, I'll be applying a second coat of primer, and you guys will see how I went from spraying paint on the cabinet to rolling in instead, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? This is part 5 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and today we're going to be painting the cabinet. In the last video, I was able to apply the first coat of primer to the cabinet, so after doing some light sanding with some 220 grit sandpaper, I used some spackling to fill in the last blemishes that I saw before applying the second coat. To paint the cabinet, I'm going to be using my HVLP sprayer, and once I got the sprayer hooked up, I poured a bottle of water into the spray gun in order to adjust my spray pattern to my liking. The paint that I'll be using on this cabinet is this Infinity paint, and once I got it mixed up, I use a paint strainer to remove any lumps or debris that may be present in the paint. And before spraying, I made sure to cover the TV lift and control box with some plastic. I started by spraying the paint on a scrap piece first to make sure the paint was spraying right, but this is when I started to run into problems. The paint was spraying, but it was coming out splattered, and after I sprayed most of the scrap piece, I tried another piece to see if the splattering would stop, but it was persistent. By the time I got to spraying the cabinet, the spray gun was clogged up and barely any paint was spraying out at all, and I ended up cleaning the spray gun and repeated the same process to get it set up, but the same thing happened again. I was frustrated by this point, so instead of spraying the cabinet, I ended up rolling the paint instead. This was my first time using a thicker paint in the sprayer, and a lot of people recommended that I should have used some paint thinner to thin the paint out, but I'll keep that in mind for next time. But here are a few clips of me using the sprayer to paint some furniture so you guys can see how the sprayer normally functions. After rolling the first coat, there were a few spots that needed touching up, but once I got those knocked out, the paint finish came out looking amazing, and I love the color that me and my girlfriend chose. In the next video, I'll be figuring out the design for the slats that I'll be using to decorate the cabinet with, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? This is part 6 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and today we're going to be installing some slats to decorate the cabinet. After cutting out a template of the front of the cabinet, I marked the center of the template so I can start laying out my slats. I'm using Weaber lumber solid oak slats, and I used the provided spacer to space the slats 3/4 of an inch apart along the whole template. To temporarily secure the slats, I used some double-sided woodworking tape, and the tape held the slats in place very well. With all the slats laid out, I was able to draw my design, which took me about 4 hours to draw, but I decided to go with a curvy wave-like pattern. I used my track saw to cut the excess of the slats that were hanging off the template, and then I made sure to label each of the slats and mark the area that will be cut out. I used my jigsaw to cut the curves in each of the slats, and with the labels I was able to put the slats back in their original place to make my design come to life. With my design complete, I was able to bring the template in the shed, and then I used my brad nailer and a spacer to attach the slats to the cabinet. While doing this, I didn't have the right size brad nails, so I got my dad to help me snip the nails as I went along, but eventually I got all the slats attached and my design came out looking wonderful, if I do say so myself. But in the next video, I'll be doing a few touch-ups before applying a protective finish to the cabinet, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? This is part 7 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and today we're going to be doing a few touch-ups and applying the protective finish to the cabinet. In the last video, we was able to get all the slats attached, but there was a few brad nails that didn't go all the way through, so I used a nail setter and a hammer to get these nails set below the surface. To fill in the brad nail holes, I'm going to be using these furniture putty sticks, and the sticks that match closest to the slats are the heritage oak and natural sticks. I started off with the heritage oak stick, but as you can see, it's too dark for the slats, so after sanding it off, I used the natural stick and it blended in way better. When using the stick, you want to make sure that your pointer finger is on the tip while rubbing it in so that the stick doesn't break, and once the hole was filled, I use a plastic scraper to remove the excess putty. I repeated this process to fill in all the holes, and with that being done, I was able to lay down some plastic to prepare for spraying. The protective finish I'm using is this Minwax polycrylic urethane, and once I sprayed some water through the sprayer to set my spray pattern, I gave the polycrylic a good stir before pouring it into my spray gun. Before spraying the cabinet, I did a test spray on a few leftover slats, and the polycrylic sprayed out nice and evenly, so I proceeded with the cabinet. While spraying, I made sure to move at a steady pace to prevent any drips, and I overlapped my passes as I went along, and by doing this, I was able to get a smooth satin finish on the cabinet. Thank you guys for watching this video. In the next video, me and my dad are going to be working on the lid for the cabinet, and we're almost at the finish line for this project, so I'm excited. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? This is part 8 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and today we're going to be working on the lid for the cabinet. To make the lid, I'm going to be using some 1-inch by 6-inch boards, so I started off by using my miter saw to cut the boards to their approximate length, and then I used my track saw to cut square edges on all the boards. With the boards cut, I was able to place them on top of the cabinet, and then I clamped the edges together to mark the final width the lid needs to be. After cutting the edge, I was able to glue these boards together, and now I have my panel for the lid. My original plan was to have the front half of the lid attached to the cabinet while the back half would be attached to a hinge, but after doing the test run with the lift, I realized that the TV was scraping against the lid, and this was due to the TV not being completely leveled. At the time, I thought it would be too much work to get the TV leveled due to the way it's connected to the lift, so I decided to glue the lid back together in one piece. After doing this, I was able to prime and paint the lid, and then I was able to use 2 piano hinges to attach the lid to the cabinet. I did another test run with the TV lift to see how the lid would do, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to get this part on camera, but the lid ended up smacking the back of the lift, and the screws that was holding the lift to the cabinet ended up scraping away. To fix this, me and my dad replaced all the screws with bolts and nuts to make sure the lift was tightly secured to the cabinet. This accident showed showed me that the lid is too heavy for the cabinet, so I'll be ditching this lid and making a new one. In the next video, I'll be showing you guys how I made the new lid and how I accidentally broke the TV lift, so stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? This is part 9 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and today I'll be building the second lid for the cabinet. For the new lid, I'll be using 1/2 inch plywood so that the lid won't be as heavy this time around. So after cutting the lid out, I placed it on top of the cabinet to make sure that it fit. The lid was a little too long, so I trimmed the edge down to make it a tight fit. Now that the lid is cut to size, I was able to sand, prime, and paint the lid before attaching it to the cabinet. I raised the lift to test the new lid, and it did a better job of lifting up smoothly than the last lid did, but it was still scraping against the back of the lift. To prevent the scraping, I added this black foam underneath the lid, and it did a pretty good job of protecting the lift. I had a good amount of slats left over, so I decided to add some to the top of the lid to give my trim design a waterfall effect. I used my brad nailer to attach the slats, and my mom helped me get the slats properly spaced until we got the whole lid covered up. I raised the lift to see if the weight of the slats would have any effect on the movement of the lid, and then the unthinkable happened. The cord for the swivel sensor got caught in the mounting bracket and ended up snapping, and with the sensor being broke, the lift is stuck in this position and is no longer working. I thought I messed up the lift for good, but after talking to the customer service at Touchstone Home Products, I was able to order a new swivel sensor to replace the one I broke. To attach the new sensor, I had to remove the mounting plate and move the swivel rings and washers from the old sensor into the new sensor. After doing this, I was able to screw the sensor back on, reattach the mounting plate, and now the lift is back in service. In the next video, I'll be adding the final touches to the lid, and I'll be showing you guys how I changed the lid from being hinged to being flat top, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? This is part 10 of building a TV lift cabinet for a 70-inch TV, and today we're going to be finishing up the lid for the cabinet. When starting the trim for the lid, I tried to attach these small pieces of trim with my brad nailer, but the pieces kept on breaking in half, and this was due to the size of the nails. So instead of using my brad nailer, I used construction adhesive and a pen nailer to get these pieces attached. There were a few pieces that didn't line up with the edge of the existing slats, so to fix this, I broke off a piece of a shim and placed it behind the piece so that it could be flush. After finishing the trim, I was able to remove the hinges so that I could start the process of changing the lid from being hinged to being attached to the lift as a flat top lid. To attach the lid to the lift, I'll be using a flat top lid mount to do so, and after placing the C bracket to its highest position, I realized I had a little problem. The C bracket is supposed to sit above the TV, but even after moving the TV down to the lowest position on the lift, the bracket was still not high enough. To fix this, I ended up having to make my own pair of extendable brackets. I used a piece of 1/8 inch flat steel for the brackets, and after cutting the steel to my desired length, I was able to trace the hole patterns from the C bracket and the lift, and then I used my drill press to drill out all the holes for each of the brackets. After making sure the bracket holes lined up, I spray painted the brackets and was able to attach the C bracket above the TV. I placed double-sided tape on the lift to temporarily attach the flat top mount in order to mark the mounting holes on the lid. I removed the slats that were in the way and was able to drill out all 4 mounting holes for these bolts to go through, and then me and my dad was able to secure the lid tightly to the lift. There were a few more touch-ups that I had to complete, but after doing these, the lid was looking amazing and it was working well with the lift going up and down. In the next video, I'll be delivering the cabinet to its final home and adding a few more additions for the big reveal, so stay tuned. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings. What's up, y'all? Today is the big reveal of the TV lift cabinet I built for a 70-inch TV, and a lot of work went into making this cabinet, and there were a few setbacks along the way, but I'm glad that it's finally finished. We started things off by moving the existing TV and furniture, and once we caught our burst from carrying the cabinet up the flight of stairs, me and my dad was able to set the cabinet in place in my girlfriend's apartment. Once we got the cabinet centered along the wall, we was able to set the TV on the lift and plug in all the cords to make sure that the lift was functioning properly. It took all hands on deck to get the lid reinstalled, as we were having trouble with getting the lid level, but after fooling around with it for a little while, we was able to get it right. The last thing I wanted to add to the TV were these LED TV backlights. After setting the camera in place, I was able to stick the LED strips on the back of the TV and plug everything into the control box to get the lights working. The camera for the LEDs required a calibration so that the LEDs will match the colors on the TV, but after doing that, the setup for the TV lift cabinet was complete. Me and my girlfriend was able to sit back and relax so we could watch our first movie on the new TV, and before we got too far into the movie, I was able to grab Bob so he could join us. Thank you guys for watching this video, and if you've been here since the beginning of the project, I greatly appreciate it. This was a fun project to build, and the design I did for the solid oak slats is what really made this cabinet a statement piece. There are a few more features I want to show you guys of the TV lift, but I'll say that for a later video. But until next time, peace, love, and many blessings.